let's see here. All right. We don't have any topics to talk about. Okay. Hey guys, this is Gadget the Layman Atheist here with Jacob, who was kind enough to meet me at Decatur Mall, and we are both not really prepared for this, but we'll give it a swing. All right. Well, let's see. What can we talk about? Let's see. Well, the base. He believes in God. I don't believe in God. He believes Jesus is the Son of God. I believe Jesus was probably a pretty cool dude. Probably an ancient John Lennon type, maybe. I don't know. But anywho, what? I guess we could start with like a hot topic or something. Let's. Or what would you prefer to? I mean,
I don't care.
Do you okay?
Anything.
I guess. Let's see. All right. Let's try to stay scientific. I think that might be more. What do you think about, say, like the Big Bang or something? So.
The Big Bang. I don't really believe in it that much because I don't understand in my mind. Even though I'm kind of young, I'm only 16. I don't really understand much. But I'm just saying, I don't see how two things could just automatically explode and just give, let's see, what is it? Just create something. I mean, I know that some things can explode and create other things, but something as massive as the Earth and the universe, and I was watching a TV show about the Big Bang Theory, and I was watching through it. I was kind of watching it. It doesn't make much sense to me. Okay. The overall part of it. Well,
let's see. I believe the theory right now, and I'm not a scientist. I am a layman. So I think the theory right now is just sort of, and I think of it sort of like a little balls that go back and forth on the top of a desk or whatever. It's sort of expanding and contracting a lot, and it might be a cycle. At some point, you got everything that was at a hot, dense state, depending on whatever might have caused that or whatnot. My personal theory is I think it was sort of at some point there was a transfer between where there was energy. And if you have two opposing waves, they null out. And I think something about that nulling out caused it to slow down to where, not necessarily a compressed state or anything, but an instant outward spurt from that point. Anywho, see, this is why we practice. We're trying to figure out where we can make a little, like a nice flow. Let's see, and that's one of the things. There's always a conflict between science and religion, and that's sort of a lot of people have that, but in a lot of ways, at least in one phase or in one aspect of looking at it, I don't think it necessarily has a conflict. It may have conflict with. I can see where it has conflict with the Bible. The science has, from the point of view of science, it has disproven a lot of things in the Bible. And I think even as a theist, you would probably agree that there are some things in the Bible that are inaccurate. Are you Old Testament, New Testament?
I'm more of a New Testament kind of guy.
Okay, so that's primarily Jesus, right? That's okay. I know posting this, a lot of the atheists are going to be like yelling at me, being like, "Oh, what, rah, rah, rah," but because I mean, there's there. I don't know all of them off the top of my head, but I know there's still some things that are conflictable about the New Testament. Like, I mean, I know for one that I looked up that, Jesus basically fully endorsed the Old Testament in a lot of ways. So, I mean, that's also that. And also, one argument I've had, and feel free to put your 2 cents in here, but it's like if the Old Testament was the Word of God, at some point, culture and our conscience recognized, hey, there's a lot of things messed up about the Old Testament. Let's make the New Testament. And if you could do that, well, why not hardwire yourself to what your belief or whatever it is? But okay, well, I mentioned this before we started recording. What do you feel loosely about homosexuality as it pertains to everything?
I mean, I just don't feel that a man and a woman and a woman should be together. Even if you look, I mean, it doesn't seem normal for most people. I mean, most people, they would see a man and a woman together. That's a normal marriage. And then they see a man and a man or a woman and a woman getting married, and they're just like,
what's going on here?
Yeah, I mean, it's just different. And I'm not saying that different is necessarily wrong, because I like to be different.
I mean,
it's not like that different.
Do you have any gay friends?
I do, actually.
Okay,
I have
cool.
2 that are lesbian.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, let's see. I had a thought in my head, and it fell out of my ear. I guess my 2 cents is one of the theories I have is, and it's sort of a cold thing. I think initially I sort of do have. I think it's more than homosexual. I think it's also homoamorous. It's about love. I mean, it is unusual, and unusual. It's taboo in our culture. It's getting more and more acceptable too. I think the media is really siding with, secular ideals and homosexuality in some ways, and I think.
I think that's more political, though. To be honest, the media siding with more secular ideas because of the president when he admitted that he thought it was okay.
Oh, sure, yeah, and
then they're just trying to side with him because the people in the political and the media tries to side with the political ideas because they try to broadcast it out to the people, and they want the people in the political. Most people, don't like that route.
Sure.
They're trying to stay out of that. They just want to, kind of.
And I guess what I was about to get to is, and I have a theory, and it's a little cold, a little scientific, but I understand it's sort of not very warm. But what we, biologically, mentally, and then basically memes. Memes is basically the evolution of thought. We do it biologically, and then your shoes or the print on your shirt. It's an idea that sort of passes on, and it's something that we sort of, as humans, do very well, is take an idea and flow with it and make it grow, develop into new things.
Yeah, I understand.
But what I'm thinking is, what if somewhere between biological and mimetic evolution, homosexuality is a way of, like a natural population control.
I can see what you're saying.
Like a while back, a long time ago, it was hard to have a kid that raised their own young. And basically that means you're successful if you have a kid, that's one level, but if your kid has a kid, then you're good to go.
Yeah.
And we've gotten to where we're such a successful culture that reproduction is not as vital. I mean, it of course it's
vital,
it's important, but it's not like, oh God, we're gonna reproduce
growing.
and we're gonna all go away.
We're not all growing still. I mean, we're kind of reached that plateau.
Yeah, we're sort of at a weird plateau. Yeah, exactly, good word. But I mean, in a culture where we're, a lot of people would argue that the Earth is overpopulated, and maybe that's a way that helps that. This is just my theory and 2 cents there, but
I was also thinking about that same thing. I was like, but a man and a man can't reproduce a child, and I was like, and that wouldn't be. I also don't think that would be like a suitable environment for a child, though, to have 2 dads or 2 moms. It's just.
Well, my opinion is, I do see it being just as healthy, if not more. But I can understand there may be some adversary. There might be some adversity growing up, maybe if somebody finds out that, and that's really a cultural issue. I mean, anybody who has to deal with any adversity in under anything, I wish them the best, and I hope that they hang in there. But I mean, one really strong advantage I see in a homosexual family raising a kid is it's almost like a blatant lesson in tolerance and the sanctity of marriage. That's a sanctity of marriage. That's an important one aspect of it. I mean, what's your stance, and why do you think, if you do think it affects the sanctity of marriage, gay marriage?
Yeah.
Do you, and if so, why do you think it affects the sanctity of marriage?
Well, typically, in a marriage, usually they come from the Bible. Not true?
Well, that's. I think, from my perspective, I've seen that it's both been an issue that it's sort of interweaving between political and religious. Marriage definitely came from a point where political and religious were like in bed together.
Yeah.
Which I need to get on that topic too. Yeah, this is a video for atheists with ADD. Yeah. All right. Let's see. How do you think it affects the sanct? I mean.
Well, so far in the Bible, I'm not a huge reader, but I do like to read.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not. I just really became a Christian like a few months ago. I've really been acting like one. I got saved at an early age, and then I wasn't like, I didn't really act like it much, and I didn't feel it.
What denomination?
Southern Baptist.
Ah, cool. Okay. Yay. Okay, because I went on that tangent about talking in tongues and flopping and stuff.
Yeah.
But I'll leave that be. Okay.
Anyways, my point on it now is that it's not like, I know you can get saved at an early age and you can have salvation, you can go to heaven, but you're not truly a true Christian because you're not, unless you act like it. You have to show that you're a Christian.
Okay. Well, so have you been sort of a casual Christian for most of your life, and then
you could put it that way? Yeah, I said I was a Christian, but I didn't.
You just was it like a family thing where you went on Sundays? Do you also go on Wednesdays too?
I didn't go on Wednesdays when I was younger, and I do. I always pretty much gone on Sundays, and now I go on Sundays and throughout the week and on Wednesdays. So I'm a student intern for my youth group, and I help out with the sound and the different media stuff. Yeah.
Awesome, cool. Yeah, well, I mean, let me put it on record that I give him kudos for being the first person to actually, meet up with me and do this. So, yay, thumbs up. All right, I'll get you a sticker later. Where to go? All right, let's sort of see where. Okay, what did you want to say about
the moral?
Moral.
Okay, I was looking through my book that I have, and it came up to me. Okay, you don't believe in sin, but you believe in right and wrong.
There are things that are culturally acceptable and unacceptable. There are things that, pretty much everything that we line up as a rule or whatnot aids in two things, and that's what we sort of naturally are driven to do, is to, one, survive, two, replicate. And usually, I would say 9 times out of 10, whenever there's a law, whether it be written into the Bible or in government law or anything, or world law, 9 times out of 10 it coincides with something that violates that. So in that sense, yeah, there is a right and wrong.
Okay.
There's something that doesn't necessarily violate those needs, and there are things that are, AKA wrong, that violate those principles.
Well, from the beginning of humanity, wherever you believe it started in evolution, or people were here.
Sure.
From what point did they know right from wrong? Who would create that idea? Who would give them the idea of right and wrong there?
Sure. Well, this is something I touched on with the apologist I mentioned, Dr. Brad Harum.
Okay.
I created sort of a little story. I think it was Bobo and 2 cavemen. Bobo and, I don't know, I made some random other one. Anywho, it's empathy. And the thing is, it's also shown in Animal Kingdom too. A lot of theists say, oh, humans are the only ones that show empathy. There was that gorilla that had a pet kitten, the one that could do sign language with Jane Austen. Yeah. When the cat died, the gorilla was like ate up and really depressed. It was really obvious. But I guess loosely you're asking what could be explained as a beginning of morality.
Yeah.
As it pertains to the survival and reproduction, it's like, you got 2 cavemen, and they survive an attack from a pack of wolves, right? And I think at some point they realized that the only reason they did survive from that wolf attack was that they were together. It was a strength in numbers, to put it fairly simply. And so with that idea in mind, is like, okay, well, hey, if I take care of this guy right here, it sounds a little selfish, but it's what we're all wired to do. We're all wired to, protect ourselves, and then secondarily know that protecting others is a way of making it a better environment for both of us.
Sure.
And in a situation like that, I think that would be where morals became apparent. And chances are there's probably a more minute origin of empathy.
Yeah.
I'm using the right one, right? Apathy, empathy. Empathy is the one. Apathy, you don't care. Empathy, you care.
Yeah.
Right? I think that's right.
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Okay. Just in case we're talking about the one that we do care. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, eventually caring for others helps. Simple. It's the stance is that it's not necessarily something that's implanted by a higher being, at least from an atheist or a secular point of view. It can a lot of the arguments we have is you can pretty much a lot of times we just say, there is no God, or we did evolve or something. And the reason we say it so cleanly and matter-of-factly, I'm rambling again.
That's fine.
The common misconception is that we are closed to the idea of a God. Most atheists are what's called agnostic atheists. We don't believe in God. We welcome a legitimate, sort of reason.
And that's what you were asking for when you put that note.
Yeah, and it was also encouraging this conversation in general. I mean, no matter where, what little things happen in our brain or whatnot, this conversation is a good thing. It's healthy. It's when we stop talking that wars happen and people get hurt. And
It's so true.
It's weighing of ideas and stuff.
When you harden yourself to one idea,
yeah,
and you don't let yourself, because that's how it used to be. I used to be a Christian, I believe in Christianity. If anybody else believes in anything else, I'm not going to believe them because,
yeah.
What's the point?
Yeah, and the thing is like if you have faith in something, if what you believe in doesn't withstand a minute amount of skepticism or testing, why do you believe it? You know what I mean? And
I understand that.
So, I mean, you should believe in something that is true, whether you believe it or not. And that's actually an accidental segue into something that goes around the atheist community. The thing, let's see, and it's sort of a jab at theists, is, and I want to guess it's Neil deGrasse Tyson, the guy who demoted Pluto. He said, the reason I like facts is they're true whether you believe in them or not. And atheism is very, evidence based. We value believing things based on what we observe, and
from more of a scientific point of view.
Definitely scientific. Nine atheists out of 10 are very scientific minded. Most of them are fairly intelligent. An occasional one are very egotistical pricks that just want to bash on religious people. But I think most of us at least have a little bit of a finger on the pulse of the humanity side of atheism. What we really value is, in our perspective, anything that leads a person to be religious it's very, very shady, very shaky. A lot of times it's contradicting. A lot of times it's wrong. As far as, there's verses in the Bible, and again, your New Testament, but,
I like the Old Testament. It's good. But
Old Testament was a lot of God being a prick.
Yeah, if you want to put it that way.
But
it was being hard because they wouldn't, I'm not sure if I'm exactly correct on this, but they wouldn't listen to him. So he needed to show them that.
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways, I think religion and politics are very much the same. I think in the case of the existence of Jesus or whatnot, and this is my theory, and I think it fairly stands well, whenever Jesus said, hey, I'm the Son of God, right? Let's say he said that straightforward. He probably did a few good times. I think it's sort of an old world terming of that. And I'm not excusing what he may have meant, but I'm saying, and very much so, you ever watch Ricky Bobby, Ballad of Ricky Bobby with Will Ferrell?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
Sorry.
Well, there's a scene where one of the people that works on his car is he's sort of a timid religious person, and they souped up his car, and he's like, oh, that's like looking up Yasmin Belief's skirt, and everybody was like all hyped up and stuff, and then he was like, yeah, this reminds me of Excalibur before blah blah blah, before he laid with Maid Marian in the biblical sense, meaning to lay with someone meant to have sex with them.
Yeah.
And I think being the Son of God in the phrasing that Jesus may have used means, I'm the product of. And God was used more possibly in the sense of what is natural, what is, I think, and I could be wrong, the Einsteinian sense, which is what Stephen Hawking uses a lot. Fairly certain he's agnostic atheist, but he does use the term. A lot of the higher scientists use the term God, but they mean it sort of not necessarily in a bearded guy in a cloud looking at you sort of mode, but more in a loose term for the universe. What am I talking about? I am rambling on something. Where were we talking about again? Morality? No, we went past that.
We went past that.
Biblical sense. We were going somewhere with this.
I know.
I went on a tangent. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
It's nice not having to type all this shit. It's great.
New Testament, Old Testament, and
New Testament, Old Testament. I guess that's sort of where I wanted to start. You got the Old Testament where did you know that there's passages if a girl is raped, she has to marry her rapist? Somebody's calling.
Yeah, Ken.
Sure. Pause. Alrighty. Okay, so were you aware of that verse where, and I think a lot of this is, I think the poster child chapter of at least the Old Testament is Leviticus. Yeah. A lot of screwed up stuff in Leviticus. You got the
That's why I don't kind of believe in it, because in the Old Testament there's 627, I think, commandments besides the main general 10 commandments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he knows we can't follow all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, in my belief, I know that God believes that I can't follow all those rules because I'm not perfect.
Yeah.
So that's why I kind of believe in the New Testament, because I know the basic 10, the general 10. Mm-hmm. Why should I read? Why should I kind of look at the other 627 or so that I know I can't follow?
When the first 10 gives you like so much trouble, I guess.
Yeah.
Because
I mean, why should it? Why when you? Let's see here. I can put this. I'm trying to think of somehow I can put this in a general perspective of most people would understand.
And I was a Southern Baptist for roughly 10 years or so. So
okay.
It's not really going to be too alien to me.
Say you were applying for something, or you were looking at something, and sometimes it'll have, like, say you were doing something, you were reading the directions on the back of the box.
Gotcha.
And it has step 1, step 2, step 3, and then it says, like, step 1, do such and such, or if you've already done this, skip to step, 8.
I think what you're touching on is actually a point I was just about to make when you brought it up. Was one of the things that one point that we have as atheists is, there's 10 commandments, but you can literally sort of boil them all down to 3. What is it?
Do not steal. That's a huge one that, like, any... had to read a book for English class. It was called The Kite Runner, and it was...
one of them, don't commit adultery.
Don't commit adultery.
And the thing is committing adultery is lying. Yeah. If you don't lie, you already got adultery covered. And I think I touched that. I don't know if I touched on it with you, but the adultery, you got some people who are in open relationships and have multiple partners.
Yeah.
That may be immoral, but at least in a personal sense or whatever,
they're not lying to their partner.
Yeah, and that's, like a polygamy. Polygamy, you're not lying.
You did touch on that.
Yeah. Polygamy, they, if they're not lying, that's their lifestyle and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's even somebody who's in a polygamous relationship, the moment they start lying about it, that's when it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
And you can really compress without losing any viability of the 10 Commandments down to like 3 or 4 of them.
But I think by not compressing it, he made it more...
He was looking for a round number, 10.
Yeah. I think that he was trying to relay the message without compressing it, because some people could, like in law, they can loophole it by saying, oh, well, it doesn't exactly say
So sort
this.
of like a reiteration or whatnot. That's cool, yeah. Okay, what were we going to touch on again? We're sitting here in front of the camera going, again. Do you ever remember a time when you didn't believe? Or is it sort of you said that you were put into church at a very early age.
Yeah. I can't really remember myself not believing, because I believe in the age of recognition, where you reach a certain age and then you realize, hey, I do right and wrong, I sin, blah, blah, blah. So before that...
Do you remember like some sort of like Bible preschool? I used to like the little boards with the felt, and they used to put the little animals up on there and stuff. I always wondered how it stuck on there without like being Velcro or sticky. But anyway,
going to look for them, but I didn't.
I recently transferred all that I could catch, all the conversations I've ever had with atheists since I started. I transferred it. It's thelaymanatheist.blogspot.com.
Okay.
I'm sure I have a link somewhere on the page or whatnot. It's sort of pretty much. I mean, there's a few little things that aren't theist conversation, but almost all of it is something I've said.
Okay. I'll look at that then.
Yeah, definitely should be interesting, and you'll see that I've made an effort to try to keep it civil and stuff. Occasionally vulgar and stuff, but
yeah,
it's the vulgar stuff that sort of sticks sometimes. For the most part, I was probably sort of a casual Christian. Every now and then, I really, really, really tried. I remember going to camp and putting hands on people, and they would fall down. And I did it too. And I think it's very much like hypnotism, where you have a social pressure to do those certain things. And I know that's probably going to
like getting saved at a young age with your friends, with your peers.
Yeah, you feel like you're
obligated.
Something's like obligated, or you're sort of
talk about that nearly every day about
what's going on with this kid if we touch his head and he doesn't fall down or whatever. Or for me, I was sitting there and I'm like, okay, I'm waiting for something to really happen here. Wow, this is getting old. I was there for like 10 minutes or something. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to lay down and I'm tired. So I lay down, and not so I'll be vague enough to not conflict you on whatever happens there too much.
No,
but there's a point where I reached where I realized that there was a lot of flaws. I mean, divinely inspired or not, the Bible was written by man, and let's pretend that a long time ago something predated the Bible. That was divinely inspired. As soon as man got a hold of it, politics, cultural, got a hold of whatever might have been divinely inspired, it was really believing in God or not, being a Christian or not. Anything that you might look in the Bible and say, whoa, wait a second, that's it's because of man, and I thought to myself, I was like, the Bible, written by man, eventually might have, at one time might have been divinely inspired and good to go, but man has really royally screwed this book up, in a lot of ways. So, all right, for me, Bible's out. All right, where else could I go? You got your pastors. A lot of times, it's nice to have a teacher. Personally, I can't really sit down and read a book to learn a subject. I prefer having a guy at least sitting up there talking and,
I
making
like
it.
that too.
Yeah, it makes it helps you help certain things stick. There's a few problems that I saw with that. Was one, and I'm sure there's scriptures that saying it's meant to be interpreted by yourself, and not have like a
opinion, another opinion.
Yeah, and
that just shared onto you.
And I mean, even if the pastor does everything he can to sort of do a legitimate, clean interpretation, who's to say that God didn't intend it to mean slightly a different thing for you versus him? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you have to
exactly what
yeah.
you're saying.
And so, all right. So both because it was made by man and both possible intentions by the divine that the Bible is meant to be interpreted, that means you're supposed to interpret it. That means you figured out what does it mean for you and stuff. So, I mean, I already sort of threw away the Bible because the contamination. I call it contamination of man.
We also talked about this today.
Sure.
We went to we just got involved in a website called trueloft.org, and they have like 17 topics, and they have video responses to each one, and they're general like homosexuality in the Bible and God, and it talks about they research these from a scholar level, and then they do a video on it. And we were just watching one, and it was talking about the different kinds of Bibles and how some translations are different from other because some are paraphrased and some are...
May I have your attention, Decatur Mall shoppers? The time is now 5:50. The mall will be closing in 10 minutes.
Okay.
All right, I guess we got 10 minutes.
All right.
We will reopen tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Thank you.
Who knew God was a woman? And she knew the hours of Decatur. Never mind.
But back into that. Some of them are paraphrased, and some of them are for Greek to English, because most of our manuscripts are Greek, and it's hard to take an exact Greek word and take in Latin.
Yeah, it's lost in translation.
Yeah,
pretty
it's
much.
hard to take a word and put it exactly word for word in another language because different words mean different things. And then that would be so for the scholarly kind of translations like the NSA. It's the standard
NIV, NJV, something.
Let me see if I have it. I just
Real quick, what I was going to touch on was, when the Bible is questionable, and you've got the pastor's interpretation, which might go against what was intended in the first place. Eventually, I reached a point where I was like, you know what, Mr. God, I'm going to sort of, I'm going to spend a lot of time to myself, sort of, who is God to me? What was right to me, and do a real sort of soul searching in a way, And it was at that point where I was like, okay, well, not saying anybody's right here, but let's see what kind of different religions there are and stuff. And I was like, that's good, doesn't really match me. Eventually I was like, you know what, I'm just going to say neutral, and eventually maybe it'll sort of flesh itself out a little bit, I knew there was good things in different religions. There's a lot of bad things in a lot of religions. But eventually I was like, I'm just going to sort of go with what is true to me. If it leads me to a God, that's cool. And if it doesn't, then that's where... It was sort of like, I was reflecting, and I was like, you know what? The God I know, the God I feel like I know, in the Christian sense, maybe the Bible was contaminated by the devil.
Yeah.
But, they're very susceptible to that sort of stuff, and I'm like, as long as I put a really good effort towards finding what is right for me, and long and the short, that's how somehow I ended up being an atheist. It's sort of if there's ever a legitimate, undeniable sort of proof or evidence of a God, I'll say, cool, all right, you were here all along. And if I went up to the pearly gates and God's like, hey, why didn't you believe in me? I'd be like, well, I learned as much as I could I lived my life, that's where a lot of people say that sin is a tool created to sell you a product, and it sort of makes you imperfect and stuff, and that's sort of one of the mechanisms of what locks in Christianity. Let's see where this goes. Why do you believe? Do you have any let me just play the. This is a question that usually is asked on atheist experiences. You know, what evidence do you have for God or Jesus? Is there anything that, whether you have evidence or if you give me a feeling-based answer, we'll just leave it at that and we'll call it a day.
All right. I think it's mainly based on faith.
Okay.
Because there's not really much evidence you can really pull from it from a scientific or secular or worldly. Mm-hmm. You just have to kind of believe in what you believe in. I do believe in that, and
sure.
I know this is gonna seem bad.
Oh no. I mean, this is all an exercise. So.
But I don't know. That's just how I kind of believe in.
I don't know. Let's see. Mall is closing. But yeah, thank you very much for coming out and
I'd like to do this again, actually.
Chat this up. But yeah, we'll do another round sometime.
Right.
Maybe have your friend come by. He's on mission or whatnot. Where was he going?
Costa Rica.
Costa Rica, lucky bastard. All right. Anywho, yeah, I've often thought about joining a missionary to see the world. No, but anywho, all right. Well, I guess we'll try to be a little bit more organized next time. Maybe think of
a few,
three at least.
Okay.
Good solid topics you'd like to throw at me.
Right.
I'll think about 3 to you, and we'll either meet up here or at the park or something.
Fine.
We'll just.
All right.
All right. Thanks, man.
No
all right.
problem.
This is Gadget the Layman the Atheist. We're here with Jacob. There he goes. All right. Later, guys.